I've made some changes to the way that I learn, and this is what today is all about. So it's been a while since I've recorded a video on my Mandarin learning journey, and a few things have changed over the course of time. If you've watched the past videos, I've shared what I've done, the process that I've used. And as you know, it's largely been watching shows, watching series, and using them as a way to take useful sentences or sentences with a word in them that I don't know, and then converting that into a flashcard that I can then use to revise and to learn the word over the course of time. Here's the thing though, I noticed that along the way, because most shows are directed at adults, I was developing a vocabulary that was higher level, higher tier vocabulary, but I was missing what I would call the lower part of the pyramid. Right? In every language, at the bottom, there are the fundamentals that you learn when you're a child, and then as you get older, you learn more complicated words, and you build on top of what you've already learned. The problem that I encountered was that as I was going through these shows, and as I was making flashcards, I was learning all these high-level words, but I was somehow skipping all the fundamentals, because they're mainly available in kids' content, right? Which a lot of the time is quite boring. So I quite literally turned a page into the colorful world of kids' books. And the nice thing is these books aren't just designed to tell a story. They're designed to build your language from the ground up, which realistically speaking is probably the foundation of any language, but in this case, obviously Mandarin. So not only am I using old school methods, so to speak, but I've combined them with some very modern tools to take the words and the things that I don't know and transform it into a process that speeds up the learning process and also makes it enjoyable, because that's part of the fun, right? So I'm going to share my process, what I do, how I go about it specifically, how I choose the books, and then how I take the things from the books and how I use modern tools to make it a faster, more efficient method over the course of this video. And hopefully throughout this process, there's something you can take away from this video that benefits you. Whether you're a complete beginner, whether you're intermediate, whether you're advanced, you might find something that's kind of useful for you along the way. I'll be sharing more of this stuff in the future, so feel free to subscribe if you're interested in it. So let's get to the foundation of this process. For months, my method was really straightforward, right? It was binge watching shows, binge watching films, series, and so on, listening to the dialogue with native subtitles, and then transforming essentially useful sentences into basically a mountain of flashcards. And it was really effective, right, to a point. Obviously my vocabulary was growing, I was learning new sentences, and I felt more confident with each new flashcard that I learned, and it's still super beneficial. But here's the problem I encountered. So as my vocabulary was growing, I struggled to express certain thoughts that I felt were very basic and kind of fundamentals of any language. So what had happened is I'd inadvertently somehow bypassed the essence of everyday simplistic language, the verbs and phrases that are kind of the foundation, the lifeblood of real conversation. And what I mean is not real conversation, the conversations that you have as an adult, because you can have those conversations, but I mean the conversations that predate that, right? The conversations that you have as a child that express basic fundamental ideas and actions more than simply thoughts. As adults, what I've noticed is a lot of what we do is we speak about our thoughts, but we rarely speak about direct actions. And all these things you learn as a child. You see, when a native child learns any language, they start with the basics, right? They build a strong foundation through the actions that they take, the instructions that their parents give them, the physical movements that they make, and the words for those particular actions, which are verbs a lot of the time, that they use in everyday language. And there I was essentially at certain points trying to construct phrases and verb phrases around particular actions, and I realized I couldn't do them, right? I couldn't say what I wanted to say. So I'd skipped that entire phase. So I changed my thought process, and my thought process was now, I want to embark on a journey that essentially takes me through the child's learning process from the ground up, that makes the process as efficient as possible, but also as enjoyable as possible. Because realistically, watching Peppa Pig, for example, for 12 hours a day is not the most exciting thing. So what I started doing is I started seeking out kids' books that were fun and filled with the fundamentals of the language. And these books, I've noticed, have sort of become a new goldmine for me. The really cool thing is the ones that I chose came with the pronunciation of the individual characters next to each characters, because they're designed specifically for kids, right? For kids to read. And at that point, kids can't necessarily read every character. So that makes pronunciation a breeze, but it also makes the following process substantially easier when it comes to figuring out the meanings and creating useful flashcards. Plus, the stories, they're actually really captivating, and I enjoy them as an adult. And that's part of the really important point and important process is, at least for me, something I've realized, that the more I enjoy the thing I'm doing, the faster I learn it. If I feel like it's a battle and a hassle to do the thing, then I'll struggle to remember the thing as much as if I really enjoyed the process. But that's really not the best part. The best part, the real magic in the process, happened when I combined the books that have all these features that I just mentioned, and then combined them with two things. The power of ChatGPT and Migaku, which you might have heard of. And let me show you how that works. So let me walk you through it. So this is essentially the traditional part. This is the first step, which is the traditional approach. I have my book, and I read through it. Right, now this is, in this case, it's the simplest out of all the books that I currently have. In fact, it's the Mandarin version, or the traditional Mandarin version specifically, of Fantastic Mr. Fox. And what I do is I read it, and when I come across words that I don't know, I have the pronunciation next to it. So I then highlight the individual word, and I go to find the meaning, and then I write the meaning on the page. Now the thing that I noticed, and this is where the modern tools come in useful, is that if you find the word and you put it into a dictionary, for example, in this case I use the Chinese dictionary Pleco, you get a variety of different translations for that word. And that makes the actual meaning of the sentence sometimes difficult to understand and when to use the actual word. The beauty about something like ChatGPT is that it's particularly good with anything language related. So if you type in the complete Chinese sentence, it'll give you a complete translation and meaning of the word in that phrase. So let me show you. What I do is I take sentences that are more complex and unfamiliar phrases, and watch this. I type the sentence, and not only do I get the translation, but I also get cultural nuances and usage examples if I wanted to. It's essentially like having a tutor, but a little bit better and more efficient on demand to an extent. Now the next step after that is we have Migaku. Now this little gem, which I paid for a lifetime subscription and they update it all the time, it's actually fantastic, is it really allows me to create flashcards directly from the text and complete with native audio. Now, what I do for native audio, let me walk you through this, is if you have people that you know that are native in the language, that are willing to do this for you, it's particularly helpful, is you can take a picture of 1 or 2 or 3 pages, send it to them, and get them to record them reading the story to you. Once I have that, and I've created the flashcard, and so far it doesn't have any audio, right? It has a useful picture, it has the definitions, it has all these different things. What it doesn't have is audio. And a really important part, in my opinion, in the actual learning process is having native audio that you can listen to, so that you understand where the intonation is and which words are emphasized more than others. What I use for that is something called Audacity. Now look at this. Here I have the audio. I know roughly where the sentence is within this. I highlight the part, I export it, I save it just as anything, right, on my desktop, and then I just add it straight into the flashcard and I save it. Done. And then with these tools, I create a deck of flashcards that's more than just static words, right? They're alive in context with sound and culture, and the best part is it's from a book that I've read or that I'm reading, and I can always go back to it and read the book again, and it makes the whole learning process much more fun and easier. And obviously this method isn't just about learning Mandarin, it's about connecting with the language on a deeper level, understanding its rhythm, if you want, and the soul of the language through the stories. So what about you? Are you learning Mandarin? Do you live in the place that you're learning? What's your current process? I'd be really interested in hearing your thoughts. If you've tried this, if you're doing something else, leave your comments below. I'm always looking for new ideas to integrate. I actually make multiple different types of flashcards in this method, but I think I'll do that in a different video so this doesn't become too long. So stick around. In the next video, I'll walk you through the kind of different cards that I make, why I make them, where I learn the different processes from, for everything to sort of stay fresh and motivating. Now, one of the big things is obviously momentum in the language learning. In the language learning process, we all hit plateaus at some point, but obviously consistency is more valuable than the actual intensity to an extent, although if you can combine both, the process is more efficient. So everyone faces different obstacles. I found that using ChatGPT, I've used it for multiple different things, but this is just one way I use it to sort of dissect tough idioms, and use Migaku to create the flashcards, and then use native audio to build that all in. Creates a really nice understanding of the story, the individual words, and whenever I see the flashcards, it takes me back to the story and I know which scene it's in. And obviously learning is social. So one of the great tools I found is places like the app Tandem, which is for language exchange. And like I said, if you want to try this and you don't have someone who can read native audio for you, or if the book doesn't have a particular audio that you can download that you can use, because you could also do that, you don't need someone to read it to you, then tools like Tandem are really useful in finding someone who's actually serious, and you can do the same thing for them, right? If they want you to read out something to them, then you can do that as well. So it's obviously a give and take process. So obviously this channel is mainly for me to sort of share my process and for me to really go back to it at some point and get an overview of what I was doing it's just a fascinating. I think the whole process is really fascinating. What I do appreciate, actually, and I didn't think about this when I was making the initial channel, because like I said, it was initially just for me, is people sharing their thoughts underneath. So if you actually enjoyed this, if you thought it was useful, feel free to like it, leave a comment, subscribe, whatever, because I love hearing your thoughts as well, the things that you do, what you find motivating, what you don't find motivating, and the tricks and tips that you have in the whole learning process. And then hopefully, if you found it useful, I'll see you next time in the next video.